So welcome back to Good News, Bad News from the Libertarian Christian Institute. We have our crack team of Roundtable participants, and we are going to bring good news from a distant land. That land is Christian Libertarian Topia, something like that. So I'm Doug Stewart, and I've got people with me here. I hail from Pennsylvania. Carrie, where are you coming from? And who are you?
I'm Carrie, and I come from the most tyrannical state in the Union, New Mexico.
Oh. Somebody's in the Midwest. Norman?
Yep. This is Norman Horn here, and I am hailing from St. Louis, Missouri, which is, not quite so tyrannical, but it has its moments.
You're close to Indiana, which is apparently getting more so, I suppose.
Yep,
Closer to Illinois, which is even worse.
Yeah. And Matthew?
I'm Matthew Bellis. I am just right down the street from Doug. And when I say down the street, you'd want to take a car over in Strasburg, Pennsylvania.
Or a buggy.
Or a buggy. We can
or
do
a
both.
buggy. Yeah.
Or strong buggy.
Or one of
Good
those
way to
scooters.
travel.
Those are really cool.
So Matt, when we're done with this, do you want to go grab a drink? Like
Doug, I would love to go grab a drink with you. I would love nothing more, but frankly, I'm not hungry, so we can't.
Hungry?
What does that mean?
Well,
Matt, why
Doug,
would you need? I just asked you for a drink. I didn't say let's eat.
No, Doug, in Pennsylvania, the way that it goes these days, you unfortunately have to order food with your alcohol. That way the COVID won't get you.
No.
Wait, does COVID not land on food?
It doesn't land
If
on
food is in
Carrie.
your mouth or up your
That's-
nostril, it doesn't get you.
You're
Does
absolutely
COVID not
right.
land on beer?
No, it doesn't land on beer. Doesn't do any of that. Let me just share with you guys from the wisdom of our wonderful governor, Governor Wolf, and the PA Liquor Control Board. They have issued guidelines so that you can know what you can do whilst you consume alcohol in restaurants and bars, because we have moved from 50% to 25% occupancy in restaurants and bars. And here, when you go for the sale of alcohol on the premises, you have to buy a meal. And by the way, the term meal, right? I don't know if you knew what a meal was. It contains food prepared on premises, sufficient to constitute breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So if you want chips, no chips. If
My
you want
kids eat chips for dinner.
Exactly. Well, sometimes I have ice cream for dinner because I'm a fat lard, but you can't have ice cream and beer, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
So you got to have bacon and eggs. You got to have a tuna salad sandwich, and you've got to have a T-bone steak to enjoy your beer. No pretzels, popcorn, or anything. By the way, if you want to consume alcohol on premises, you have to have that as a meal, a part of your group, and you have to eat it and drink it at the same time. Once you're done eating, you can't have any more beer or alcohol. Bar service is prohibited at for food and or alcohol.
Wow.
But good news is, if you are a brewery and you want to have people drink at your brewery, you can get a food truck. Just so you know, you can spring for one of those. Just go do that. Casinos can't do drink service
because that's just
anymore.
Because I'm totally certain they're just like food truck for rent.
Exactly.
In Lancaster,
Norman.
Pennsylvania.
I
right
don't
now.
think you understand the amount of food truckery we have in this state. If you've got a club and you don't sell food, don't even think about opening. Don't even do it.
Oh.
You cannot use your liquor license and serve alcohol if you ain't selling food. Now, if you're one of those fancy dancy strip clubs and you serve a breakfast buffet, you totally can. You're totally fine. Just so you know, the governor's additional order directing targeted mitigating measures specially prohibits businesses that meet the definition of a nightclub. So no nightclubs. Don't do it.
Wow.
And by the way, indoor seating in yellow counties, we have this whole red, green, yellow thing. If you're in a yellow county, you cannot sit indoors. So, sorry, Norman, I'm not hungry. I can't consume food at the time, so we cannot consume alcohol because the COVID gonna get you.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my.
I knew we were going to talk about this, but I'm just looking at this. It is now even more patently insane than you guys made it sound in our prior discussions. This is
what
absolutely
kills me
nuts
about this, though, Norman, is the fact that that we are told that they're following the science, and it has everything to do with the science and the data, and we're doing everything we can to try and mitigate the disasters. But here's the thing. I just want to share this one more thing with you, just so you know. The science, they're not going to follow the science. This is our health director, Rachel.
Oh, yeah.
Alvin. Yeah. They're not going to release the granular data to prove restaurants and bars cause case increases.
Yeah.
You can read that.
Because real
That's
science doesn't
convenient.
need proof, right, Norman? You just need to take a scientist's word for it.
Yeah,
That's how science
So
works,
convenient.
right?
That's how
just
science
believe me.
It's it's granular, guys.
I figured out
Granular.
what gravity is, and we can reverse it, and now we can have flying cars. Can you prove it? No, just believe me. We're fine. We're fine.
So that's like
Well.
really bad news for Pennsylvanians who want to go out and socialize and drink. And, you know, Matt, you and I are just going to have to eat if we want to drink. What a weird thing to say.
You
But
guys already have
here's the
state
good
liquor
news.
stores, so,
I mean,
yeah,
it's gonna
I know.
have
It's not
obesity.
like Pennsylvania has the greatest. I mean, when I say we're going to be able to, I'm sorry, let me say it this way. It's very likely that in Pennsylvania, pot will be legalized before we can buy alcohol in normal places. So, like, seriously, it's just kind of weird here because of, well, the Mothers Against Drunk Driving lobby is probably the biggest thing.
You know what
But-
they didn't talk about? They didn't talk about pizza and beer. That's what I really want to know. Does pizza constitute an actual meal that you can drink
or is
beer
it a
with?
snack?
Or is it a snack? What is it? What is it?
Yeah,
Is it on
right.
the appetizer menu? If it
So-
is, no.
So here's what I think is really, really kind of the good news is that this is so easy to get around.
Oh, it's absolutely.
It's
stupid,
like,
but
come
yes.
on, like if it's prepared on, okay, it's prepared there, right? So you can prepare a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, cut it in half, and charge 25 cents for it with the wings
Mhm.
or with the
Yeah.
chips. And it's like, here, I prepared this. We prepared this. Or you could do things like, you know, one onion ring, 25 cents.
Well, they
That-
have said you can't do
make it a snack.
can't because they wanted to make sure you knew
Oh,
what a meal was.
Yeah,
So
they've defined the meal.
constitute.
But
They
what I think.
So
the
I
good
really
news
want to
here-
know how whether or not somebody comes in, orders an onion ring, okay, or a cheese ball, and and then something happens, right? And
Yeah,
then
right.
they sue. Like, where's the judge going to come down on? That's like, how can you say that an onion ring or a plate of onion rings is not dinner? Like,
I
people
really-
choose. We're in America. We eat crap all the time. That is dinner.
I'm waiting for the first person in Pennsylvania to go to jail for just having a shot and no T-bone steak. So
Oh boy, that's gonna be fun.
Civil disobedience, ready to go.
Oh man.
Well, what's mind blowing to me too is that it's like the nanny statism here is so off the scale.
yeah,
Because it's
Yeah.
gone beyond like, all right, we have, we're going to make recommendations and these are the things you should try and follow in order to do it. Okay. They're already saying, okay, we can't trust you to just follow general recommendations. And now they're saying, we're not going to trust you if we gave you specific recommendations for a very specific situation, namely a restaurant or something like that. So it's like, this is like 3 or 4 states of nannyism at
Yeah.
this.
At this
just
point,
unbelievable.
you can really see
Unbelievable.
the absurdity, and it makes the argument all the more delicious. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Doug.
For sure.
Delicious indeed. Oh my goodness. So yeah, it gets well, and I think it's funny because it gets complicated. I mean, we're sort of poking fun at this, but it gets complicated. And one of the things that I think has been more complicated as we look at the prospect of the rest of the year is schools reopening. And I just wanted to get everybody's take on the just what's going on here. What are we thinking about the challenges of reopening, some of the opportunities that people like us who believe in school choice think are on the horizon? I mean, we even have Trump talking school choice lingo big time lately. So that might change things. I think there's some good news in there, but what's the real problem happening?
To me, like what I'm observing here, at least in Missouri, is there's just so much uncertainty as to, from 2 points of view. One, do the parents want to put their kids in the school?
Yeah.
And even if they do, well, I guess this would be a third problem. So if they do, what are the conditions going to be like? And then the third is the wild card of the teachers as well. And many of the teachers, I mean, let's be frank here. Even if we're against the public school system, we still can have a marginal we can have respect for teachers and the work that they do. And and that's we should do that overall. And the fact that I think it's really offensive, and not in the social justice-y sense, but just like it offends sensibilities to say like, oh well, and I've literally heard this said, oh well, if the teachers don't want to go teach, that they're going to be blamed for shutting down the economy or something to that effect. And that just seems like, what is going on? Like, why talk again? Going kind of the level of rhetoric and nanny statism and whatnot that is going on at this point is just so off the charts wild.
You could maybe blame like teacher unions for overstepping their like leveraging power, but to sort of scapegoat all teachers for being cautious.
Oh, that's just absolutely nuts.
I don't even think it's necessarily teachers. I mean, my sister-in-law runs a micro school out here, a private micro school, and they're going to be starting on time, and they're going to be, implementing a few things. But they're, the public schools are going to be delayed, and they've got some crazy like plan for reopening. And so I was talking to my sister-in-law about this, and she was saying, well, one of the problems is the teachers aren't actually allowed to adapt to the situation. They're being told, okay, we're going to have a handful of students in the classroom. You have to teach them, and you also have to figure out a way to record that and put that online, and then also give your online students the same attention. And like and the teachers are like, how the heck am I going to do this? The thing that she pointed out to me is that the public schools are designed or intended to cater to absolutely every demographic.
Yes.
And you can't do that. Like, even my sister-in-law, she's like, I don't get it. I've got parents who want the masks and want the some of the recommendations, and then other parents who don't. And I said, this is a perfect opportunity for some schools to cater to those people who want fewer restrictions, and cater to those parents who want those restrictions, because you have parents on both sides who are like, I don't want to send my kid to school because of the restrictions, and I don't want to send my kid to school because I'm afraid of the COVID. So, public schools just aren't equipped to handle it.
Yeah.
And nor should they be. And I think that this is a place where the market can actually really provide. I actually was in a discussion in a Facebook group. Actually, no, it was a friend of mine's Facebook. He is a big proponent of the public school system. And I just said, well, listen, if schools don't want to reopen, I think this is a good case for school choice. And
oh man,
that is just an absolute
it's sacrilege.
Heresy.
Heresy indeed.
I've pointed out to several people that between all of the private school options and all of the different kinds of homeschooling curriculum and models and just, options for doing that, if the Department of Education went away tomorrow, America could still have a superior education of their kids. Like, we don't need it. It can shut down tomorrow.
Yeah. Maybe we should resurrect that one bill that said to basically get rid of Betsy DeVos, because the left just absolutely abhors her. And basically the bill was introduced to abolish the Department of Education, but like nobody on the left actually read what the bill was. They were just like, yeah, hit reshare. Get rid of Betsy DeVos. Let's promote this.
Let's do that.
We could resurrect that for sure.
I got to tell you guys, I think Trump is a secret genius. Sometimes get somebody in there that people will hate, and then you can just get rid of the whole department. I think it's fantastic.
If that's the way it ends up, then glory be.
That was in The Art of the Deal. I don't know if you knew that, Norm.
Really? Is that in The Art of the Deal?
You want to shut down a company? Just put somebody in there who's absolutely terrible. And go away. That's my best. I can't.
So,
do that.
I can't either.
What do you guys recommend to? I mean, I know Matt, you and I have talked about our children going to schools, because we, at least for the past year or so, our kids have gone to the same school, and what do we do as Christians to think about our kids' safety, or the safety of our neighbors' kids, all of that, in terms of like making a prudent and wise choice? Any of you can, chime in, of course. I was directing that at Matt more, but I mean,
just because our kids are so close. Honestly, I'll say this, for Christians to take a libertarian bent in education means that you almost have to be staunchly school choice, and you almost have to pursue that, I think, with all passion. Even if you choose public school in the end, you do yourself a disservice if you don't explore your options and shop. If you can't homeschool, I understand that. Here's the thing, I can't homeschool either. Just not an option for us. We chose to go to a private Christian school, and actually we're shopping private Christian schools right now because of how the school that we went to handled a lot of these issues. But if you're a libertarian and you're not going out there, I heard it best said that if you send your kids to Caesar, don't be surprised when they come back Romans.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's really complicated. I mean, I might have a more, I don't know, unusual scenario because I have a special needs child, and that's really, really tough right now. Because we're, kind of stuck between rocks and hard places any way you slice it. There's really no good option.
Yeah.
And that's really hard when you're also trying to deal with a very social and outgoing 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and all of them need their mom constantly, and we're just trying to make ends meet while we're at it, which isn't doing particularly well either. So it's like, oh yeah, this is just perfect.
Yeah.
And where the public school is definitely not an option, but there are extremely expensive other options that are just like, what are we going to possibly do? How do we do this? And but it's very difficult. I would say that at least from our point of view, it's like we're just trying to figure out, how do we just micro school our way through this as best we can. And because we really don't have a lot of good choices.
Well, and I read a headline, I think it was yesterday, somebody was talking about how, and it wasn't really a homeschooling thing, they called it COVID pods. So basically there were a bunch of public school teachers who didn't like what the public schools were doing. And so they were getting hired on by groups of parents, small group, like even smaller than what you would consider a micro school to be. They were calling them pods. And so those parents were hiring
nano schools.
Teachers. Yeah, there you go, nano school. But those parents were hiring teachers that were public school teachers who didn't like the options, that the public schools were coming up with.
That's far better than what I thought a COVID pod would be. That would be...
I didn't come up with the name, but I could see you have a lot of special ed services in the public school system, and some of them aren't even all that bad. Give them an incentive to come away from the public schools and do something more private.
I will say that I think one American that's having a fantastic year throughout COVID-19 is Corey DeAngelis. He's really been a pioneer for school choice through this whole COVID issue.
Yeah. Well, I agree. The one thing that I think is going to be really, I think, amazing in the long run, I hope, is that we will have a completely different way of thinking about education. People like us have been trying to be like, we got to do more remote education. We got to do more online. We got to do more this, more that. And like, everyone's like, okay, that sounds really great. We'll maybe do that one day, or we'll kind of like tack that on here and there for stuff. But now we're kind of forced to think of things, I think, just like the workforce has started to realize that there's a lot that could be done remotely from home. They don't have to be in the office, even if it's not 100%, they don't have to always be there. So maybe this is where school gets changed and we have teleschool and, I mean, that does mean our kids stay home with us a little bit more. And I know that that's a mixed bag for some parents, or maybe every parent. I don't want to assume, but
I don't know, man. I was in a conference who actually argued that the Industrial Revolution and the segregation of parents and children into different social structures in terms of education really did a disservice to the family. And having family time more together really does do well for kids overall. So it might actually improve family life.
That is true. And we're going to use that to segue to our next thing, which does not improve family life. So, Carrie,
Bearer of the bad news.
This is all bad news.
yeah, well, yeah, Carrie, we're going to need your permission to join you on this conversation. So why don't you tell us?
Yes.
What are we talking about here?
Permission
Check
granted.
for uteri here.
That's right. We are talking about abortion. So Reason Magazine put out an article, I guess it's been a couple of weeks now. There was a federal court that approved abortion medicine, or the abortion pill to be prescribed over telemedicine. And of course, this is all under the guise of COVID-19, and we don't want women risking exposure to COVID by actually going to see an abortionist. And so the argument goes that, they needed to be able to have access to that service through telemedicine. Now, I will say that the court decision only allowed it for the duration of the health emergency. But I wanted to talk about this because I was recently on a panel discussion for the Friedman Conference, which is hosted out of Australia. And one of the driving factors in that conversation was to talk about what sort of common ground pro-life libertarians have with pro-choice libertarians. And a lot of the conservative pro-lifers are really upset about this decision because they feel like, it's their goals have always been to just stop access, right? To stop access to abortion and abortion services. And as a libertarian, I think, in a completely unregulated market, there's no way to prevent this. And so I think that this is a good opportunity to talk about how the pro-life libertarian perspective on this is to look at it from an economic point of view, and how can libertarians actually compete with this and offer more life-affirming options rather than simply trying to put the kibosh on the service. Because that's the incrementalist approach to abortion has only served to perpetuate the abortion industry insofar as they continue to regulate it. So that was really what I wanted to point out, is that the libertarian perspective doesn't have to be, clamp down on women's choice. We talk about how we trust human beings to make choices for themselves in a free market, and the libertarian view should be that we trust women to make life-affirming choices in a free market where we can compete with life-affirming options and services.
So I'm actually curious. Go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say, are you saying that we shouldn't just have better Supreme Court justices? Like, that's not the end. That's not the goal. I mean, I know I'm saying that tongue in cheek because I know the answer.
Yes. Yeah. No, the Supreme Court, man, they, one of the things that I learned when I was doing my research for my debate with Walter Block was I learned about what Roe v. Wade is actually about, because Roe v. Wade was genuinely legislating from the bench. And one of the things that it does, I mean, it's obviously bad law for babies, for unborn babies, but it's actually bad law for women because it talks about a woman's liberty interest and a woman's bodily autonomy, but all of that is subject to state interest first. And so when Planned Parenthood versus Casey came along, Planned Parenthood was saying, okay, if a woman has bodily autonomy and this liberty interest, then she needs more, a greater access to this choice. And the Supreme Court said no, because to overturn Roe v. Wade would put the reputation of the court in jeopardy.
Dead.
So
Dead.
Roe v. Wade will never be overturned, whether it's by a conservative court or a liberal court, because to do so would mean that the court has to admit that they screwed up and made bad law.
I think they diminished the reputation of the court by making that statement. I mean, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask this real quick, just so, because you brought this up, and in a way that I can agree with. what sort of resources or avenues or ideas can libertarians push to make life-affirming choices much more attractive than life-ending choices?
Well, see, this is okay. So this is the one thing that I pointed out in that panel discussion, because I basically am breaking down abortion into three different facets. You have the legal rights perspective, which is a philosophical argument, and then you have the legal enforcement aspect, which is, you know, criminal law, and then you have the praxeological or the economic perspective. And basically, libertarians, whether you're pro-choice or pro-life, both agree in a non-authoritarian form of enforcement. So no police state, no draconian crap. And we agree on a freed market. Of course, where we disagree is the philosophical legal rights stuff. And that's fine. We can have that debate. But if you look at it from an economic perspective, and look at the division between pro-choice and pro-life as a more of a specialization of labor, you have a segment of the population who's motivated to provide options to prevent unwanted pregnancies. And then you have a segment of the population who's motivated to provide life-affirming options when unwanted pregnancy occurs. And both of those things are totally legitimate. The only small aspect is whether or not abortion should be considered in that. So even methods, even those options that prevent actual pregnancy are legitimate life-affirming options if it's preventative. And then on the other side, I mean, that can be crisis pregnancy centers. That can be a number of things. And there are actually more crisis pregnancy centers in America than there are abortion clinics. So we're in a really good spot to compete with it. We just don't typically think of the economic side of things. And so we don't think about competing with it as opposed to just shutting it down.
And that comes down to a lot of cultural change that needs to happen in the minds of pro-lifers, to be honest, right? I mean, we have to think about like the way in which it is proffered these days as to we need to get rid of abortion is almost always considered by, let's just say, for lack of a better word, we'll call it the common mind. Here. It is from a legal perspective. Got to overturn Roe v. Wade. We got to make sure that there's, a good Supreme Court justice on the bench. We got to make sure that a Republican is in office, because that's the way it's going to be done. Right. Not realizing, of course, that these are the same arguments that have been done for the last 30 years, and we're getting nowhere.
Yeah.
And I think Carrie has done a terrific job. All viewers should know in trying to give an alternative view that makes sense. That is life affirming. All of these things I think are super great. And so go listen to her. She
teaches you new words like praxeological.
Yeah. You've really raised the bar on the conversation here.
Give her $30 for that one. Jeez.
And that's something I've been, I think that if LCI can do anything in the world of politics to, in the long run, if we can do even just one thing, and if it's just raise the bar of conversation in a lot of these areas, then we'll have done something really good.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, thank you for joining us for Good News, Bad News. What we're going to do is a bonus segment, and we're going to talk about Hamilton, but we're not going to do it So in order to do that, you're going to have to subscribe to this video, and then or subscribe to our channel, and you'll get it in the feed there as well. So we'll see you back here in about 2 weeks.
And also, you'll find out next time which one of us between Doug, Norman, and myself actually grow a full beard. So we'll see.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. I think.
I don't know.
I'm glad I was left out of that.
Okay.